Imagine hearing Jesus say, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I'll raise it up." What would you think he meant? Because the religious leaders thought he was talking about the building, but he wasn't. We're continuing our deep dive through the Gospel of John, and today we're in John chapter 2, verses 18 through 22. Last time Jesus entered the temple, drove out the animals, poured all the money on the floor, and overturned the tables. So the Jewish leaders challenged him and said, "What sign do you show us for doing these things?" Basically, what authority do you have to do this? And what sign can you give us to prove it? And Jesus answers in verse 19. He says, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." And they completely misunderstood him. They respond and say, "It's taken 46 years to build this temple, and will you raise it up in 3 days?" But then John gives us the explanation in verse 21. He says, "But he was speaking about the temple of his body." There it is. Jesus wasn't predicting the destruction and reconstruction of the building. He was pointing towards the cross and the resurrection. Destroy this temple, his body, and in 3 days he would rise it again. But there's something deeper happening here. The temple represented the place where God's presence dwelt among his people. But remember what John already told us in chapter 1. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Jesus is revealing that something greater than the physical temple is standing right in front of them. God's presence has come to humanity through Jesus Christ. And there's one more detail I love. John tells us that the disciples didn't fully understand this when Jesus originally said it. Verse 22 says that after Jesus was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered his words and believed the scripture and the word that Jesus had spoken. Sometimes the disciples heard Jesus but didn't understand until later. And maybe you've experienced that too. Sometimes God speaks through his word, and only later do you look back and realize, wow, I understand now what that meant. John keeps pointing us forward. Even this early in Jesus' ministry, the cross and the empty tomb are already in view. Next time we'll finish John chapter 2, and we're going to discover something almost unsettling. People believed in Jesus, but Jesus didn't entrust himself to them. Why? That's where we're going to next. This is a study of the book of John.